Hello to all my dear colleagues and friends who are attending the Forum for Behavioral Science and Family Medicine. If you're watching this means that there's been some technical glitches with our first virtual forum. And this presentation was pre-recorded to help fill in the gap until we can hopefully return to some live sessions together. My name is Linda Myerholtz, and I'm the Director of Behavioral Science Education at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. This presentation is going to provide an overview of the results of the 2019 salary survey for behavioral science educators in family medicine. It really can be a challenge for behavioral scientists teaching in family medicine programs to benchmark their compensation packages. Likewise, it's difficult for programs who are looking to hire behavioral scientists to know what are competitive salary ranges. Some national organizations report on salary information, like the American Psychological Association, for example. And these have been used in the past, but they have limitations in that they don't cover the breadth of professionals teaching in these roles, such as master's level social workers, licensed counselors, marriage and family therapists, etc. They also don't reflect the variation in job expectations, such as the amount of time spent teaching versus clinical time. It's important to note that salary surveys such as this one have been conducted in the past, and I want to highlight the work of Sam Romano. He was the behavioral scientist at the University of Michigan for many years, and he conducted these surveys as a service to the forum community. I assisted Sam with the last survey in 2013 and then built on his previous work. This most recent survey was distributed in the late summer of 2019. The primary objective of this presentation is to review those survey results and discuss some of the limitations and challenges in the survey process. An additional objective will be to have some discussion or at least gather some electronic feedback from you about what information should be included in future surveys, to discuss some strategies for soliciting better quality data, and finally, discuss some strategies for increasing the response rates. So overall, the goal, in the theme of the $6 Million Man, we can rebuild this survey. We have the technology. We can make this survey better than it was. Better, stronger, faster. I'd like to take a few moments to give you some background on the respondents for the survey. In August of 2019, I sent out an invitation to participate in the survey through the STFM Collaborative on Family and Behavioral Health listserv. I also invited listserv members to send the link on to other family medicine educators who focus on behavioral health who may not be members of STFM. This was an online survey using Qualtrics, and responses were anonymous. Data in this presentation is only reported in the aggregate, being mindful of data analyses where there were small sample sizes. In total, 139 members responded to the survey, and this represents roughly 40% of the group membership for the Collaborative on Family and Behavioral Health. Of those, 134 provided actual salary data. As you can see from this slide, the vast majority of the respondents were female, and the respondents represented 37 states. We did not have any respondents from outside of the United States. There was diversity in how long people have been teaching in family medicine, ranging from brand new educators to those who are seasoned and working in the field for 37 years. In addition to the basic demographic information, the survey asked respondents about their roles within the family medicine program, their titles, and their degrees. I want to highlight that the questions that you see on the slides are phrased exactly as they were on the survey. I point that out because I'm going to be asking for feedback on how to clarify some of the questions to ensure that we're obtaining quality responses. As you can see, the majority of individuals described their role as the Director of Behavioral Science or Behavioral Health within their family medicine residency programs. In terms of the type of residency programs, the majority were from community-based and university-affiliated programs, but there were also respondents working in academic medical centers, community-based programs with no university affiliation, and military programs. For respondents working in programs where they have an academic appointment, the most common was reported as assistant professor, followed by associate professor. It's interesting to note that there were relatively few full professor respondents. I'm not sure if this reflects just a low number of respondents who are full professors, or if it reflects that there are relatively few behavioral scientists achieving the rank of full professor. I asked respondents to describe their current employment status within the family medicine program as either full-time, part-time, retired, or not working other. I defined full-time as 100% full-time equivalent, or FTE, or in other words, working 40 or more hours per week within the family medicine residency program. I draw your attention to how I phrased this question in particular, as I have some concerns about the data reported by respondents who were part-time in their family medicine residency program. If the respondents indicated that they were working part-time, I then asked them to specify their percent of FTE or full-time equivalent within their family medicine residency program. I then used this response to prorate the salary data for the part-time respondents to a full-time FTE. As I began to look at this data, however, I noticed that many of the prorated part-time salaries were often statistical outliers when included in the full-time analysis. I have some uncertainty about the quality of this data, and I wonder if some of the part-time respondents reported the total number of hours they worked rather than their percentage of full-time equivalent. This may be inflating the part-time data, and thus this part-time data should be interpreted with extreme caution. You'll see that while I report out on some of the part-time data, that most of the analyses actually focus on the data reported by individuals who were full-time for this reason. And now on to the results that are probably most interesting to participants in this program. I first asked respondents to report their current base salary within the family medicine residency program, not including any incentives, bonus, or clinical practice income. This table shows the average of the base salary, the standard deviation, the minimum reported salary, the maximum reported salary, and the sample size. This data is reported based on respondents' highest degree because there's significant differences in salary range when you look at faculty who fulfill these roles, who are MDs or DOs, for example, compared to other licensures and degrees. I also split out full-time faculty from part-time faculty. The full-time data is highlighted in yellow on these slides. Again, I highly recommend that we use the full-time data when we're thinking about the overall results of the survey. While I report the part-time data, I have serious reservations about the method of proration based on self-reported full-time equivalent status. There are a few other notes that I want to make about the data analysis. One doctoral intern and one postdoctoral fellow who responded to the survey were removed from the salary and compensation analysis to minimize skewing of the data. So this really focuses on full-time faculty. In addition, I didn't report out on the one individual who responded that they were retired in order to help protect anonymity. You can see that the average base salary for a full-time master's level behavioral health educator is just over $94,000 annually. For MDs and DOs, it's $134,000, although the response size is very small. And for PhD or PsyD doctoral level respondents, the average salary was a little over $111,000 annually. Respondents were also asked if they were eligible to receive additional incentives, bonuses, or practice income in addition to their base salary within their family medicine program. 44% of the respondents indicated that they were eligible for an incentive or bonus. And of those individuals, 3 reported they were eligible but did not receive a bonus in the previous year. As you can see from the first line of the table, the bonuses ranged from a minimum of $500 up to a maximum of $180,000. That's considerable variability, and it made me wonder if some of the individuals who were outliers included their own private practice income in their response to this question, or they added their incentive to their base salary in response to this question. Therefore, I did do a second analysis reporting just on removing those with who were statistical outliers. The next row of the table shows the bonus aggregate data with the statistical outliers removed. Here, you'll still see the minimum bonus was $500, but the maximum drops to $24,000, with the average being just shy of $8,000 in additional incentive or bonus per year. This table shows a comparison of the average base salaries, which is on the left, to the average base salary including bonuses and incentives on the right side of the table. It's important to note that I'm only reporting data from individuals who responded that they were full-time employees in this table. This is again because I doubt some of the reliability of the part-time data. It's important to note that this slide does include statistical outliers, but on the next slide, I'll show you this data with the outliers removed. As you can see, for a master's level, the average total compensation, which includes base and bonuses, is roughly $96,000 annually. For MDs and DOs, it was $138,000 roughly. And for doctoral level educators, this was just shy of $119,000 annually. I know this slide is busy and I'll do my best to talk you through it. This shows the results of the statistical outlier analysis. It's important again to note that this analysis was done only on respondents who reported that they were working full-time. For the purposes of the statistical outlier analysis, I did not include the MD or DO respondents due to the small sample size. This table is split into 2 main parts again, looking at base salary only on the left side of the table, and then to the right, the base salary plus bonuses and incentives. I report first the average with the outliers and then the average with the outliers removed. And this is done for the master's level educators and then for doctoral level educators. This table also includes the standard deviations and the minimums and maximums in sample sizes. So for example, if we look at our master's level clinicians, the average base salary alone with statistical outliers is a little over $94,000 annually. With the statistical outliers removed, it drops to $91,000 annually. At the bottom of the slide, I've indicated for both the master's level and then the PhD group the basis of the outlier analysis, with the master's level information on the left-hand side and the doctoral level information on the right side of this table. This table shows the first quartile, the third quartile. interquartile range, lower bound, the upper bound, and then finally the salaries which were removed due to being determined to be statistical outliers. For master's level, there was one outlier with a base salary that was removed, and that was $140,000. This one was removed from the outlier analysis. There were more outliers for the doctoral level group, with 4 data points for base salary that were removed as a result of being determined to be statistical outliers. Likewise, there were 2 statistical outliers among the doctoral level group that were removed when we looked at the base plus bonus for that particular group. For the purposes of benchmarking salaries for behavioral science educators working in family medicine residency programs, the data with the outliers removed on this slide provides the best quality data that we currently have. I'd recommend using the data lines with the outliers removed as benchmarks. It's important to note that the data for the master's level educators is less robust due to the smaller sample size. If we look at the average base salary, including bonuses and incentives, the average master's level clinician would be earning $92,000 annually, with a standard deviation just shy of $16,000. Again, that is based on 14 full-time master's level respondents. The doctoral level data is based on a much larger sample size and is more robust as a result. When we look at the average of the base and incentives with outliers removed, the best benchmark would be an average salary of $112,000 annually with a standard deviation of a little over $16,000. In addition to asking about salary compensation, the survey also asked respondents about professional allowance for CEUs or CMEs. 96% of the respondents do receive some compensation or reimbursement for continuing education. We looked at the average range for all respondents. It ranged from $250 annually up to a maximum of $14,000 annually, with an average of roughly $30,000. When I removed the statistical outliers, which were 2 data points, the average dropped to just under $3,000 annually for continuing medical education. After completing the full sample analysis, I also did some secondary analyses looking at differences in salary based on gender, years of experience, job title, type of family medicine program, and academic rank. It's important to note that this analysis does include the statistical outliers at this point. This table shows the results for gender. I've not reported on full-time MDs or DOs again because of the sample size and needing to protect anonymity. This analysis is based only on the full-time respondents. As you can see, there is a clear gender difference, with male family medicine educators consistently making more money than female family medicine educators. This holds true at both the master's and the doctoral level, indicating that more work needs to be done in terms of gender equality for family medicine educators. I did not put all the additional analyses into this slide presentation based on the years of experience and job title, for example, but those are available in the full report, which is available through the listserv for STFM's Collaborative on Family and Behavioral Health. You're also welcome to contact me directly, and I have my contact information on the last slide. I'll be glad to send you a copy of this full summary report. What I can tell you is that the trends in those additional analyses were generally consistent with what you might expect, with individuals with more years of experience generally earning more, and those with a higher academic rank generally earning more. Finally, respondents were asked about how satisfied they were with their compensation that they receive in their role as a behavioral scientist in a family medicine residency program. As you can see, the majority indicated they were either extremely satisfied or somewhat satisfied. It's important to recognize some of the limitations with the survey data. First of all, the survey was sent out through STFM's Collaborative for Family and Behavioral Health Care listserv. While listserv members were invited to pass it on to additional educators who were not STFM members, it's conceivable that educators were missed. In addition, we had a relatively low number of respondents who reported that they were master's level educators or physicians. We need to work on building response rates, particularly within these groups, in order to have more robust data. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, I have significant concerns about the prorated salary data from individuals who indicated that they worked part-time within their family medicine residency programs. Thus, again, I strongly recommend using data from full-time respondents only as our current benchmark. Another important limitation is that I was not able to adjust for cost of living differences, and this is a really important issue to consider. There's likely to be significant differences in respondent salaries for folks who work in New York City or San Diego, for example, compared to those who live in Columbus, Ohio. I hope you find the results of the Behavioral Science Educator Salary Survey helpful in your work and within your program. I now turn to you, though, to help make future surveys better. And these are some of the discussion questions that I posed to the group. I'd encourage you to respond through the chat function that's tied to this presentation, or you can respond to me directly by email so that we can make the survey better in the future. First, are there additional data elements that you'd recommend that we collect as a part of this survey, keeping in mind collecting relevant information that is not too cumbersome in creating a long survey that would be a burden to complete? Second, I need your assistance on how to phrase the questions. In particular, I phrased the questions exactly on the slides as they were asked on the survey. And I'm not sure that I was clear in how I phrased questions asking about part-time versus full-time employment status. Likewise, I'm not sure that I was clear in asking about additional compensation over and above base salary. And I'm concerned that some people may have included their own private practice income or added bonus salary to their base salary in those responses. And this may have led to some of those statistical outliers. I really value feedback on how to ask questions about salary and additional compensation, as well as hours worked within the family medicine residency program, so that we have greater confidence in the data the next time we run the survey. I'd also appreciate feedback on the data analyses. Which elements were most helpful to you? Are there certain elements that weren't particularly helpful? Are there analyses you'd recommend that we include in the future survey? I'm looking for feedback on ways to increase response rate. Although we had roughly a 40% response rate among our group on our collaborative on family and behavioral health, and that's not bad for an online survey, I'd love to increase that response rate in the future. And then finally, I'm looking for some feedback on when to conduct the next survey. How often should we conduct these types of surveys? Do we conduct another survey this year, given the context of COVID and the impact that this is having on many salaries and bonuses across the country for all academic positions? I'm also open to other feedback and suggestions that you may have to continue to make this survey better and to meet the needs of our professional community. I want to thank you in joining me for this recorded presentation. I hope it's helpful to you, and I will continue to offer these surveys periodically as a service to our community. If you have additional feedback for me, have questions, or would like a copy of the full report from the 2019 survey, please feel free to contact me at the email listed on the screen. It's linda_myerholtz@med.unc.edu. Thank you for your engagement and for your feedback.